Today is one of those days that I'm in the mood for some baking, and one of my favorite things to bake is bread. I live in San Francisco Bay Area and we are very blessed with having a lot of good bakeries and gourmet breads, so of course I enjoy buying them. But with this COVID situation, I started baking again, and I find it very comforting and therapeutic just to bake at home. And the taste is so close to what my lovely grandma used to bake during my childhood summers in her house in Avanos, Cappadocia. She passed away about 10 years ago, but she had a real brick oven in her backyard and she used to bake large batches. And I remember we enjoyed eating them for days. I have some of my best memories in that backyard. Okay, where were we? In today's video, I'll be sharing two kinds of bread recipes that we always eat here in my house. When I say two kinds, I mean just switching the flour between recipes. Otherwise, the recipe measurements are basically the same for both breads. One recipe is a mix of rye flour and all-purpose, and the second one has whole wheat flour instead of rye. And as you'll see, my love for freezing things and the convenience of not baking or cooking every day, I'll be of course baking big batches this time too and then freeze them. And we will enjoy them for a couple of weeks. If you don't want to bake this much, just cut the recipe in half or even third, totally up to you. For the first recipe, I have dark rye flour. It's not easy to find organic rye flour, so I ended up ordering this from Azure and I like the taste, so I'll keep buying this. If I use rye flour for the whole recipe, it gets so dense and dark, so I mix it with all-purpose flour, and the ratio is basically half and half. I think I'll use 9 to 10 cups of flour in total. I kind of eyeball things, but I'll put all the measurements that I end up using for these recipes down in the description below. Okay, I have 2 to 3 cups of lukewarm filtered drinking water, 2 packs of instant yeast, 10 grams each, and I think I end up using 2 tablespoons salt, just a little EVOO, and I basically dump everything in, then mix about 8 minutes with my KitchenAid. So let's get this batch going. Then I'll show you the other recipe with whole wheat flour. Let me start with correcting my water measurement. I ended up using 4 cups warm water, not 3, for 10 cups of flour. 5 cups each, right? Rye and all-purpose. Okay, it's been 8 minutes of mixing, so I'm done with mixing this batch. Now it's time to transfer this into my big bowl for its first rise. And I'll be covering the bowl and let it rest. Okay, I covered my bowl and it will rest for 40-45 minutes for the first rise. Then I stretch and fold the dough, then let it rest for another round, 40-45 minutes. And I'll be repeating this about 4 to 5 times because that's the limit for my patience, but you can go further if you like. Other than constant babysitting almost all day long, this is such an easy recipe. Just choose a day that you are at home and set your timer to check the dough just for a couple of seconds in every 40 to 45 minutes or so. I'll be showing every step I go through, so just watch and enjoy, then at the end maybe give this a try. Now I'm mixing the second batch. This is the same with the first one as I said before. I'm just using whole wheat instead of rye flour. Mixing with all-purpose flour. 5 cups each again. I'll be repeating the same steps for both. "40 minutes passed. Actually, it is more than 40 minutes for the first one, right? Since I mixed the second dough after that. But just to keep them together, I simply ended up resting a little longer. That's perfectly fine. Okay. Oh, look how much it already has risen. Pretty amazing. Now time to fold the dough. Stretching and folding helps to have those lovely air bubbles in my bread, and it rises better at the end. The easiest way of doing this is I'll go ahead and wet my hands with the water and the dough does not stick on my hands. Then I stretch and fold each 4 corners to the center one by one, and I'll be stretching the dough as much as I can. Then let it rest for the next rise and repeat this about 3 more times. completed 4 rounds of 40-45 minutes stretch and folding exercise. Now time to transfer the dough to the baking sheet. If you have Dutch oven, go ahead and use it. I know it bakes the bread really good, especially with a good crust. But here's my reality. It's just so heavy and I don't like the idea of cleaning and transferring that much heavy pot. And plus I cannot bake this much at once with Dutch oven. I would need a couple of Dutch ovens and have to bake a couple of times. Long story short, I like to keep it simple and use what I already have on the hand. Nothing fancy. Now let's go ahead and transfer the dough to the sheets. Okay, I don't want to disturb the dough too much, so I'm gonna gently shape and transfer them to the sheets and put some support on both sides. I simply rolled some towels under my parchment paper, as you can see, both sides, so that it can rise upwards instead of spreading sides. So that's the goal. I'm done with shaping. Now it will rest for about 60 to 90 minutes, this time in the closed oven for its final rise before baking it. It's been 90 minutes. The dough looks pretty puffy and ready to go in the oven, finally, right? Let me take them out and preheat the oven by broiling for 10 minutes first. Broiling is my fast-forward preheating method. Then I'll bake them at 450 for 30 minutes first, and then reduce the heat to 400 Fahrenheit and keep baking until they look kinda golden brown and have a good crust. Okay, let's get these babies out. Oh, these are heavy. Okay. I'll go ahead and start the broiler. I'm also adding a small empty tray on the bottom rack. Let's broil. Oops. Okay, and I'll boil some water in my kettle and pour the boiling water onto the heated small tray to mimic steam oven so that the surface of the bread expands easily. And I'll shut the door as quick as I can. I'll quickly slash my dough with my sharp knife so that during baking process my bread can expand properly. Just a simple slash, and I'm gonna take the towels out and then put them in the oven. Done with baking. Let me turn this off. Again, I baked at 450 for 30 minutes and another 30 minutes at 400 Fahrenheit. Okay. Oh, that's so hot. I know they don't look fancy, but the whole house smells so good and they are delicious. Both my husband and my older one came down already and asked several times when these would be ready. Let me show you the other one. This one is rye, this one is whole wheat. I know it's so tempting to grab a slice now, but I have to let it rest and cool it down on my countertop because it is still slowly baking inside. Believe me, I have done it before. Inside is kind of soggy if I tear this apart now. After working patiently this much long, it's definitely worth it to wait till they cool down. These look humongous. I don't know how much you can see from the camera, but they are humongous. Let me turn them over so that they keep breathing while cooling down. Okay, this one too. Again, this one is rye, this one is wheat. I mean, I know, you guys know, right? You can see the difference between breads. Since I use dark rye flour, rye bread has risen less and it is denser than the whole wheat, but I assure you both taste delicious. I'll show you how the inside looks for both, and I just need to patiently wait now. Since these are big loaves, it took an hour, and to be honest, this is our dinner time and I cannot hold my crew any longer to have a bite of these. So the time has come. I'll go ahead and slice the bread. We'll enjoy, of course, some today's dinner, and I spare some for tomorrow, and I'll freeze the rest to keep it fresh for the days to come.
Bon appetit!